A very good evening, friends. So today I am going to start with a very important capability or ability, biomechanical ability in the athletes, known as speed ability. You have to have in each and every game. If you don't have speed, the chances of winning gold are less, right? So development of speed ability is very important in athletes. So this is the focus of today's video lesson. So as we are dealing with kinematics, so speed is very important. So the learning outcomes in the today's lecture will be what is speed ability and its different manifestations, because speed has different aspects. I'll discuss all of them, you come to know. Second one, biomechanical properties essential for speed ability. What are the properties you need to have or you need to develop in yourself to have this ability? In addition, I also discuss some of the features which you get from your parents and how they influence your training part. That is very important. I'll discuss that also in relation to speed ability. And lastly, basic and complex theories of speed ability in biomechanics. So what are those? So one by one you will get all these things clear in your mind. So starting with the lecture, speed and its variable manifestation first. So what is speed? Doing movement faster. Very simple. If I say in one line, speed can generally be defined as the ability to perform faster no matter what movement you are performing, whether it is cyclic, whether it is acyclic, or it is a combined movement. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you are doing it faster, that means you have speed. So this is the simplest definition of speed. I hope you all know already. Okay. But what happens? How you do that? So that is important. So define it like it is ability to perform faster no matter movement, which type of movement you are doing through, that is important, muscle contraction. Whatever movement you are doing, muscles are working, right? And whenever your muscles are contracting with good amount during a particular movement, so that movement will become speedy, right? Now these are different manifestations, different ways to see the speed. Like simplest one, the speed of sprinter is 100 meter per hour, right? Suppose in a 100 meter run, what is the speed of the sprinter? So you will take it as how fast he is running. So this is speed. Now in a javelin throw, athlete is throwing the javelin. How fast he is throwing that? Has he reached the javelin release speed in which he want to throw it so that he can get the maximum score? So this is another manifestation. Maximum speed of the starting run of the athlete in the long distance jump. So in the jump, that is the speed which is very important to score high. Speed of changing position in the middle player from the middle part of the net into side area. Again, this is another way to see the speed, which is advantageous, right? In the cyclic movement, when significant change in the direction can occur with decrease or subsequent increase in speed or and movement frequency, this is known as agility. This is very important in multiplayer games like hockey and football. You should have agility, and it is another form, another manifestation of speed. Rapid change of movements. So all these things are speed abilities. Once you develop this ability in you, you can perform all these according to your game. So it is very crucial and very important in biomechanics to develop speed in athletes, or you to, if you want to check it, yes, it is there or not. So all aspects we'll cover today. Now, first of all, what is the key factor for speed abilities? One key factor that I have already discussed is muscle contraction with maximum intensity. Do any task, if you do this thing at the ground level, you are contracting your muscles with the maximum intensity. That means that task will be speedier. So one common driving event for all these speed ability manifestation is muscle contraction with maximum intensity. You are recruiting all your muscle fibers at once with complete force to do that task so that you can do it in a speedy manner. So this is speed ability, and the key factor is muscle contraction with maximum intensity. So So to cut the theory short, if somebody asks you when you will develop speed ability, when you have muscle contraction with maximum intensity, when you do the task with maximum muscle contraction with max intensity, right? This is the answer. So main differences in training workouts. Now depending upon this, we have basically two types of workouts which we do to attain this ability. So usually we come across in the games like acyclic movements like throws or cast. To develop speed in these movements, you need to use slight resistance training, which is up to 20% of your 1 RM. Now RM is very important here. I hope some of you must be knowing. If you don't know, I am telling you right here. We'll explain it in another lecture also. What is RM? RM is very important. It is repetition maximum, 1 repetition maximum. Your basically 1 RM of an athlete is the maximum weight he can take while doing a workout, complete workout, and it is that weight. Beyond that he cannot do it. Means it is the maximum heaviest weight he is holding in his hand. Suppose bicep curl is the workout, to make the thing simple. Bicep curl is the workout, and suppose you can do a bicep curl completely with 50 kg weights max, but that repetition is only once. You can't do more than one. It should be that weight. If it is 50 kg is that weight, that only 50 kg you can do the bicep curl completely. After that you are fully exhausted, you can't do anything more than one, but that one should be complete. So that is your 1 RM, 1 repetition maximum. So it is variable depending on strengths. It varies athlete to athlete. It could be 80, it could be 50, but I have told you what is that. That is that weight which you have to complete your 1 repetition, for example bicep curl, and you are exhausted at all after that. You can't do more than one, but that one should be complete. Okay, so it is that weight. Now for acyclic movements, to develop speed abilities, this kind of weights are utilized. 20% of your 1 RM. Suppose 100 kg is your 1 RM, then 20% will be 20 kgs. So in order to develop speed for these movements like throwing or casting, you will utilize 20 kg weights, because it is 20% of your 1 RM. I have taken an example of 100 kgs. So just to make it simpler, I repeat again, if your 1 RM is 100 kgs and you want to develop speed ability for acyclic movements like throws or casts, then you should do your training with slight resistance, and that resistance is up to 20% of 1 RM, and that is your 1 RM was 100 kg, so 20% is 20 kg. So you will do workouts with 20 kg to develop this kind of. So this is just, I am giving you the idea how things go, how we do to develop these things. So this is the way. On the other hand, if you want to develop cyclic movement, you want to develop speed in the cyclic movement like running and all that, so in that case you should not use any resistance. It should be free workout. So we'll discuss all this in detail in the later slide. You will come to know. So this is the different types of workouts which you do depending on the movement in which you want to develop your speed abilities. Okay, now basic areas of speed abilities. This is very important. So basic areas, basically in a speed ability you have two areas. One is your reaction speed and one is your realization speed. These two speeds collectively make speed ability in an athlete. So what is the reaction speed? This is that speed, the time which you take to react. Like in the sprinting, that bullet when fires, and every athlete is listening to that. The moment it's fired, they become very active and they start running. So that reaction to that fire, that reaction time is known as reaction speed. And the athlete who has this one, this is the case of microsecond, it's very fast. And if we compare the athletes in this on these terms, this is also variable. If this one is very fast in a particular athlete, then that athlete is automatically very good in development of speed abilities. So initial part is your reaction time, when you react to stimulus, and then you begin the movement, that is known as the realization speed. So every speed ability has two parts. So these are the basic parts. Complex parts, we have divided realization speed into three different things. Well, I'll discuss on the later slide, but for simply basic areas are two basic areas. Reaction speed, it is manifested by speed as a reaction to a given stimulus. And then when you start actual movement, if the movement is running, you will start running. If the movement is swimming, you start swimming, whatever the movement is. So that actual movement is realization speed. So these two make your speed ability. Okay, I think it is clear. Now what are complex areas? They are same. The only difference is we have further classified this realization speed. Again, reaction speed, the time you take to respond to stimulus, that is your reaction speed. Then realization speed has been divided in the complex areas further, like single speed movements, cyclic speed, and agility. So single speed movement like throws and all that, these areas come under this. If you want to develop a reaction speed of these types of movements, throwing, kicking balls, cycling movements, and here you need 20% of 1 RM resistance for the workouts that I have discussed earlier. Then cyclic speed. In cyclic speed, you don't need any resistance to do the workouts, and this is the speed, the movement which includes multiple repetitions like walking, running, and all that. And finally, agility is your ability to change your directions in a particular game. Like in hockey, you need that agility. And in these two, there is a time gap. I'll discuss later on, which when you develop these speed abilities for the more than 15 seconds of the time. Suppose you have attained a speed of 15 km per hour for more than 15 seconds in a run. You are maintaining that. When you maintain speed, that becomes speed endurance. Okay, and workouts for cyclic speed and agility will develop speed endurance in you. So this is all about different areas of speed ability, complex areas. So just to make more clear, to make more categories, they have classified it. Earlier, otherwise there is mainly two areas, reaction speed and realization speed, and when you classify them according to movement, it becomes complex area. So this is the only difference, right? Now again, this is the definition of complex areas which I have already discussed you. So cyclic speed or locomotion speed is an ability to reach high frequency. Yeah, in cyclic speed, when you run fastly with speed, your frequency of repetitions increases. So this is the technical term. So in cyclic speed, you reach high frequency of cycling movements through muscle contraction without any significant resistance in duration until 15 seconds. Now why 15 seconds is important? Because beyond 15 seconds, if you maintain that frequency of speed, then that becomes your endurance. Okay, cyclic speed is up to 15 seconds, right? Well, up to 15 seconds, whatever speed you maintain highest is your speed, cyclic speed in a repetitive movement, right? Single speed like throws and all that, ability to reach maximum speed of the movement without resistance or against slight resistance through muscle contraction. Okay, agility, ability to change direction of movement quickly, that already discussed. In the hockey and football, you need that. Speed endurance is understood as an ability to maintain high speed of movement for a time period longer than 15 seconds. If you maintain high speed beyond 15 seconds, then that ability becomes your speed endurance. Okay, and reaction speed, that is your first part. I have already told you, the ability to react to a given stimulus as fast as possible. So this is all the explanation which I have told you earlier in the figure. Now coming to the part development of speed ability, and let me tell you one thing, it is one of the most difficult tasks to develop speed ability in athletes. Why? Because it is the speed ability is inborn, and with training which we do, the training which we provide to the athletes or the coaches provide to the athletes can affect their training abilities only 20%. Rest 80% of The speed abilities is inborn. The features you get from your parents or by hereditary, you can say that is in your genes, that maintains your speed abilities. So the fraction is like that: 80% your genetic factor matters, 20% is the thing which we can modulate so that you can have good speed abilities, but 80% it depends upon your genetic features, how fast you respond, how your nerve connections are, how your brain responds to the stimulus. These things are inborn. You cannot, to some extent you do something, you can improve, but in actual terms, if you talk about facts, these are inborn, right? So what are the, we call it as innate factors which you get from your parents, like quality of central nervous systems, mainly the speed of stimulus transmission. So it varies according to genes. Somebody has very fast, somebody has slow. The one who has slow, he cannot develop that amount of speed which the faster one can do. So quality of central nervous system matters. The ability of nervous system to control the speed of contraction and relaxation of muscle. Now this is coordination part, how well they are coordinated with the muscular system. Now there are guys who have very good coordination with their nervous system and muscle. They go in one training session, they adapt themselves so well. You don't need to give them instruction again and again. And there are guys, you are at the third session or fourth session, still they are not able to. So it is all genetic to develop speed, right? So the ability of intermuscular coordination between the agonist and antagonist muscle groups. So this is again the nervous part, antagonist and agonist. If you study physiology, you must be knowing. Then amount of keratin phosphate, this is physiology, and ATP for the starter of the motor activity, and second available amounts of carbohydrates. So these factors are again dependent upon your genes, and they help in development of speed abilities, and these are your inborn characters. Predominance of fast muscle fibers. Now types of muscle fiber, we have two types of muscle fibers, the fast muscle fibers, and this is all dependent upon genes. If the guy has more of these, he can develop more speed abilities in a particular movement. So all 80% of things to develop speed are your inborn characteristics you get from your family, and 20% is the thing which we modulate, but that is also important. That doesn't mean that if you have features and you can do anything. Biomechanics is still there, that works. We modulate the things so that you can actually utilize those features. Otherwise the features are there in yours, in they are there, but you can't utilize them if you don't know how to. Okay, I hope it is very clear now. Now I'm coming to the biomechanical part. Key biomechanical qualities for speed ability. What are these three? There are basically three biomechanical qualities that you should develop in you, or that you should have to have a good speed ability. So these are your strength impulse, net power output, and stretch shortening cycle. Now here I'll tell you the part we play. So these things, if you don't know, if an athlete don't know about these things, he won't utilize these things in his game. And if he doesn't utilize these things, he is suffering definitely, because if you know these facts, then you become more economical, utilize less of energy, do more of work, generate more power, do more work, physical work, and at the end you get the medal. So what are these? Number one is your strength impulse. So it is your force per unit time. It is the ability to apply force as large as possible in restricted time. So it is force by time. Force will come from your muscular power. So to some extent it is decided by the genes, how many muscle fiber, fast muscle fiber, how your nervous system is coordinated. So that is F. Then over time, the lesser the time you take, more impulse you can generate. So strength impulse is given by these things: ability to generate force by your muscles, and ability to the least and the minimum time which you can take. Force per unit time, as large as force should be as large as possible, and time should be as minimum as possible to generate good amount of strength impulse. Once you generate good amount of strength impulse, automatically you have speed ability in you, right? Second is net power output. What is that? It is understood as the result of product of force into velocity. Force into speed is your power while performing any movement. So you are applying some force, but if you have speed 2, that automatically produce more power. On the other hand, you are doing something, applying force, but you are doing it slowly, then you have less power. And there is a difference, but there is an inverse relation between the force and the velocity. We'll discuss that in force velocity curve. That is also very important for the training. So what is that? If you apply more force, you will have less velocity, and if you apply less force, you have more velocity. These are inversely related to each other, force and velocity. To understand, take one example. Again, I am taking bicep curl. Take some heavier weight and do the bicep curl. How it will go? Very heavy weight. You take heavy weight, you will do it very slowly. Now, weight is force basically. So if you are picking up heavier weight, you are applying more amount of force. More force means less velocity. Simple. On the other hand, if you take the lighter weight, you can do it with a good speed. So this is force velocity relation. So I'll come to this in some next class. So net power. So first one is your strength impulse, second is your net power output should be high, strength impulse should be high, and third one, this is very important, stretch shortening cycle, SSC. This is there in everybody, but the one who knows it can utilize it in a good way and become biomechanically efficient. So basically, what is SSC? It is a combination of eccentric and subsequent concentric muscle contraction. Eccentric and concentric, I think you know. If you don't know, I am telling you right here. Eccentric means lengthening, simplest definition, lengthening of your muscle, and concentric means contraction, shortening of your muscles. So this cycle is the sequence of these events happening in a particular muscle, and we call it as stress shortening cycle. It happens for in a fraction, in a few seconds, and if you utilize it, you can become very efficient athlete in your movements. So I'll discuss all of these three one by one, then you understand. So what is strength impulse? Suppose sprinting involves single legged sport and flight phases of left and right lower limbs. So here you can see the cycle in the sprinting. So you have single leg sport event and the flight phase. So this is your single leg event and flight phase when you are in the air, right? So these are the important steps or phases of sprinting. So sprinting involves single leg sport and flight phases of left and right lower limb for the both the legs, right? Now during the sport phase, the runner has only this amount of time, 0.1 to 0.2 seconds, to take off from the surface to do another flight phase. So this is the limited time you have, and this limited time you should have ability to produce maximum force, and if you fail in this, you can't win in sprinting or running. So within such short time, the athlete must apply high rate of force development, RFD, rate of force development. It should be so high so that within the 0.1 to 0.2 second you should able to contract your muscles, all muscle fibers, in order to create strength impulse, right? And how you develop that? Ballistic training modules. So this is the way when you perform ballistic training modules. So for the sprinters, these modules are utilized because these can help you to gain this ability, strength impulse. You can with these modules, you are able to produce large amount of force in such a short period of time. That ultimately means, or biomechanically means, you are able to produce strong strength impulses, and that will help you to win in sprinting. Okay, so that is one, and this is the graph which will make it very clear. So 0.1 to 0.2, this is in the this is that your same 0.2 seconds. So this is the thing we are, this is the only time you have during sprinting, this much. Now just look at the curves. The blue one is without training, the black one is heavy resistance training, he is doing strength training, a lot of strength training, and the red one is the one who is doing ballistic modules. and you can see that amount of force in the red one is the maximum, see, as compared to heavy strength training and the one who has not trained at all. So see, he's crossing all these and he has got this. So this amount of force is present by ballistic training, and with this high strength impulse can possible, and he will be the winner, the one who is undergoing this. So this is the way we develop these things. Now coming to the power output, net power output, force into velocity in a game. This also leads to good speed ability. Now taking example of javelin throw, the range of throw depends on the two basic parameters. When you throw anything in the throwing games like javelin or shot put, so it is basically, the concept here is projectile, right? So I'll come to that also in the later class when we'll discuss only projectile. So basically in projectile, when you throw it, it is a projectile, you have thrown it in the air. It depends, its range depends on the angle, which we are not going to discuss this one right now. We'll discuss in the projectile angle. Second one is your release speed, how fast you release that. So that is important. So when you have good power output, then this one becomes very nice, and when this one becomes very good, you have good release speed, then automatically you will get good range, and that will give you more scores, right? So net power output results from the relation between velocity of movement and the force that causes the movement. Again, I have already discussed force velocity. The relation between the velocity of the movement and the acting force is inverse. So the maximum net power output is compromise. So what is this compromise? They are talking about a compromise in the training, because these are inversely related. If you do more of strength training, you will lose at velocity, and if you do more of velocity training, you will lose at force. But in this case, you need both of them. So a compromise is there in the training so that you can get advantage of both the worlds. The athlete must act on javelin with the optimum force, which ranges as described in theory around 30% of maximum force and around 30% of maximum velocity. So 30% of maximum force, that amount of resistance he will take during the training part, and 30% of max velocity modules he will taking, so that he will be training in a such a way so that he can develop both at both the end, so that he can have good release speed in order to get good range, in order to get good power output. So in this way, power output helps you to have speed abilities. Now coming to the stress shortening cycle. On this I have another lecture complete on stress shortening cycle. I'll explain more in that. For time being, I am just touching only the speed part, how it helps you to gain speed. So what is that? It is basically involved in all the sports which involves running, jumping, and or other movements with explosive changes in momentum or velocity, where you need a rapid, because if you develop this thing, you also become agile. Agile means rapid change of movements, right? So the principle of SS is a combination of eccentric stretch and immediate concentric shortening of the muscles tendon complex through the movement. So tendon is which is connecting your muscle with the bone, so this is also involved in that. So what is the idea is, when you do eccentric contraction or like lengthening of your muscles, so during this phase you will use your energy. I am telling you in a very simple way. The first phase is eccentric contraction, and it is usually lengthening of the muscles. Usually it is lengthening of the muscles. First phase is, it has 3 cycles basically. Stress shortening cycle has 3 cycles. Here you can see eccentric, amortization, and concentric. Eccentric means lengthening of muscles, concentric means shortening of muscles, and amortization is the time phase between the two, when your muscle is neither lengthening nor shortening. So in between the phases we have this phase, and this phase is very important. This will determine how fast your muscles will go from this phase, eccentric phase, to concentric. And if you are working on developing your SSC abilities, it is in you. If you are utilizing it in a very good way, then this time period of this amortization phase will be very less, and lesser the this amortization, more efficient you are, because your transition from eccentric to concentric will be very fast, and that will result in very good efficiency. So what is happening here? We are utilizing elastic or strain energy part, the energy which gets stored in your muscles or tendons. So what happens is, during the first phase, when you are doing eccentric contraction, suppose you are making counter movement jump, or like counter movement jump means when you take a dip, little bit of dip. I will share a video later on in the class on stress shortening cycle. Then you will understand what is. If you just go to the YouTube and you will search counter movement jump, you will see how we perform that. So we make a dip in that. Dip means we go downwards towards the earth, and then we rapidly take the jump into the sky. Now this downward movement, when you are bending towards the earth, that is your eccentric contraction of muscles. That is happening at your different muscle groups, like at the ankle muscles, at your hip muscles. All these are undergoing, when you take a dip, that is undergoing eccentric contraction, lengthening happening, and in this phase you are utilizing your energy to do that. But what will happen, the beauty of this SSC is, you will store most of the energy, because after that you have to jump. So in that phase your muscle will contract, they will shorten, and if you have stored this energy during your eccentric phase, that energy will boost your concentric contraction, and you will have good height in the jump. This is the idea. Otherwise, if you don't take that dip or eccentric contraction and you jump without dipping, just you are standing straight and you are jumping, you just note the height, and in the second time you take some dip, go downwards and then jump, and then you will see the height of your jump will rise. So why? Because you have utilized your stress shortening cycle. The energy which you stored by dipping, going towards the earth, that maximize your performance, that added to your muscle contraction, concentric muscle contraction. So this is the idea. If you utilize your stress shortening cycle, then with less effort you can do more, right? And one example more I give of your bicep curl. When you are lengthening your arm, so that is your eccentric contraction, and if you are able to store energy, you utilize your SSC, then when you lift that when you do flexion, then that strain energy will add up, and you will be able to do it with a good amount of contraction, right? So this is the thing, stress shortening cycle, and again this will provide you agility, another manifestation of speed. So we have full lecture in the later on series on stress shortening cycle. It is very important concept, so I'll discuss that in detail, but for time being you should know that there are three abilities. Number one is your strength impulse, number two is your net power output, and number three is your stress shortening cycle. All these abilities is there in you. You have to develop it by some training modules, and once you develop it, you have got speed ability in you. Now some other factors which are also important, but they come at number 4. This is your stride length and stride frequency. Running speed, we are now talking of running speed, so it will depend upon your stride frequency and stride length. So the stride length is your genetic part, because somebody has a longer stride length, some have short, so that you can't modulate by training, but what you can modulate is stride frequency. So both these things help you to gain speed abilities. The increase in speed can be achieved by increasing the length or frequency of the stride. Speed on either side, stride length or stride frequency, it varies from individual to individual. Already I have discussed that. That 3 training program and inborn abilities play important roles, that you already know right now. Stride frequency generally seems to be more trainable than stride length, right? We work on this one also, but results are more positive on stride frequency. We are able to generate more amount of high frequency by workouts as compared to this, right? So this is a summary of biomechanical parameters that affect speed or help you develop speed: your force impulse, net uh, power output, stress shortening cycle, stride frequency, stride length. Now some methods of development of speed ability. So the primary method is it involves performing proper movement or a technique. At the beginning, the athlete should perform activities at some maximal speed to fix the correct mechanism. Earlier, whatever you technique you are telling your athlete to do, whether it is running, swimming, or any other movement, you want to develop speed in that. First of all, don't go for higher speed. Let him know what is the technique. Let him know what is the programming of your movement, and then as he gradually master the skill, speed ability will develop with training modules in between. So this is the primary method. Is usually what we do. We do the movement slowly. Tell him what amount of curves and angle, everything in detail, so that his brain get programmed, and then with training modules and that with practice we develop these abilities in it, in the athlete, right? Now one example is, this is your jumping jack variation of hip dissociation. So this is just one example of the training workout. It is a drill. So what it does is it basically helps you to just read this one. Hip dissociation means being able to move the hip in its socket without compensating elsewhere. Means you are making it to perform movement individually without affecting any other part. So once you develop this thing, then the cleanness in the movement comes, and that automatically helps you to generate these abilities which I am talking about. This is one way to develop that, right? And if you if it yeah, so see, so I stop here. Now you can see that what he is doing, he is working in two planes. Here he is making, let me see, he is doing forward backward movements in this plane. The plane you already know, this plane is cutting, this is what plane? Sagittal plane, cutting the body into left and right. So he is doing forward and backward movements also, and with hands he is doing frontal plane movements also. So both things he is doing at once. So this kind of drill, and later in the video he will also rotate also. So he is trying to sharpen his movements in all the plane at once, so that he can able to achieve them in a very clean way. So that is the idea of these drills, so that your movement becomes cleaner. So now he will rotate also. Just look at it. Yeah, this is another variation. Now he is doing three. Then he is working in all planes, transverse, sagittal. So this is the thing. So in this way, these kind of training or modules help you to gain these abilities. Now secondary methods, and these are sprint resistance and sprint assistance. Again, they are basically focused on the running speeds, like they will affect your stride length or stride frequency. In this method, this one resistance method, you are going uphill, upstairs, sprinting, will help you to have some modification in your stride length, not 100%, to some extent you can do that. And assistant method will help you to develop, yeah, this one, that sprint assistant includes gravity assisted running, downhill sprinting at the shallow of 3 to 7 degrees Celsius, that will enhance your stride frequency. Contrast method is which involves both of these methods, resistant and assistant method, so that you can develop sprinting speed. And tertiary method is your flexibility, flexible workouts, where you do plyometric trainings and all that, and that will definitely help you to gain agility And for speed endurance also, these kind of movements like high intensity shuttle run will help you to gain speed and keep it on that speed for the longer period of time beyond 15 seconds. That will develop your speed endurance. So these are the three ways by which you can develop your speed abilities. Now these are the principles of speed development that you always keep in mind as a coach. Number one is, if the athlete is tired, don't attempt these kind of drills. The first and foremost thing is the athlete should not be tired if you are going for speed ability workouts or drills. Number one. Number two, the athlete must be in good mood and must be self motivated to train speed, because it is one of the most difficult tasks to attain. And if the athlete is not well, he should be well at all the grounds. Its mind should be there, its heart should be there, and he should not be tired. Only then you perform these. Speed training must be preceded by good stretching. This is also a good practice. You should always stretch after undergoing these kind of drills. All exercise must be carried out with maximum intensity, right? So that all muscle recruitment should be there. Muscle fiber recruitment, sorry. The technique of applied exercise must be perfectly mastered. You should master each technique and repeat readily and train yourself. And speed exercise must be placed at the beginning of the training session. That is very crucial when you are planning periodization. Everything is when you are planning the chart for an athlete. Training session of speed ability should come first. After that, you should go for strength training. This is always there, because when you do the strength one, you have some different tasks, and that can affect with your speed abilities, right? So it is always done like this. You always put these workouts in prior to your strength workouts. So this was, I think, most of the very practical video lecture. I think most of the you have understood it. Thank you very much.